When we're working with the animator, we choose a genre, and then from within that genre, select the song. And then when we look in the editor, we see we have 6 phrases associated with each song. We can choose them by clicking on these over here, or we can click on the keyboard here, or we can use these buttons here. Now, the good news is we can also select them by clicking on our keyboard in the C-1 octave. And the good news about that is we can then use those notes as key switches to change the phrases that are going to be triggered as they're being played in the sequencer. Now, another way of customizing is that we can, let's say, for example, here I'm in the Getting Out song, and I'm using these. Let's say I'm using 5 of these, one of them are going unused. Rather than wasting a slot unused, I can replace and customize the layout of these 6 and maybe use one from another song, and therefore create like a custom palette. So all you need to do is go to another song that you like and just double click and it'll replace the phrase that's on the selected slot there. I'm not going to do it now because I've got this song laid out for my little example I'm about to play you, but it's easy to customize the palette that way. So I'm using Getting Out, and what I've done, let me close this up for the moment, or actually I'm going to leave it open because I want to show you something here. I've customized the smart chord to fit this little song. It's one of the examples from the last video, but I've stretched it out and made it a bit longer. And I've set it to G major. And let me just play it for you without the horns now, and you'll hear it's a full chord progression. So you can hear it's a full chord progression with a lot of chords, more than you might ideally, or not ideally, but in reality need to use in a production. But just to illustrate how flexible these phrases are. So what I've done is I've set the smart chord to G major to fit the key signature of these. And I've programmed up some trigger notes like I did in the last video, and they're triggering the notes of the chords, and they're mostly 2 bars long. 1 or 2 of them I've changed the length of, just to get a different length of the phrase that's being triggered. But it's all just a series of longer notes that are being triggered. Now what I've done here, and you can see these in blue, is I've added in key switch notes to switch between these 6 phrases. And I've done that by putting in notes here in that octave of C1, and I've put them on the white notes to correspond with these white notes, C, D, E, F, G, and A. And I'm therefore going to be triggering different phrases in the Getting Out song, and each one is going to be triggering the right chord for the right scale step based on the key of G major. So let's listen, and as it's playing, you'll be able to see the different phrases being selected here. And not only that, but I've customized some of them in terms of the start point, so that most of them are starting from at 1 and going to 64, but a couple of them I've customized so that I can sort of force it to play back certain rhythms a certain way. So let's listen, and then we'll look at some of the things that are happening. So it all works really nicely. Now, one of the things I've done, for example, here with this one is I've limited this particular phrase to 12 steps. So I'm getting just that first shot, and it's repeating every 3 beats. So it's starting on beat 2 and then repeating every 3 beats due to the length there. And I deliberately didn't lengthen this note because if I did, it would repeat one more time like this. So an example of how I forced it to conform. And one of the other ones, I believe it's this one here. There it is, starting in the middle of the phrase and only playing for 18 beats, again, to get an irregular timing of the phrase, of the notes in the phrase. So that worked out nicely, and I've created a custom part here based on using these different techniques, editing the start and the length, using trigger notes to trigger the different phrases, setting smart chords to match the key, and optionally, I didn't do it in this example, but I could customize the actual phrases contained in this song. So that's how you use the songs and the phrases, and we'll continue with more in the next video.